This is news and commentary from America's Heartland. You're watching Heartlander News. Welcome into Heartlander News. I'm Chris Stigall. Speaking of Democrats who don't want someone at a post, or at least are pretending they're pretending they do, but we know that they don't. Chris Coons, Delaware Senator Chris Coons, who has always pretended to be a great moderate. Give me number 261 here, Aaron. They're still out there trying to spin, deflect, and explain Graham Plattner. This is going to be one to watch straight through November. They're claiming this guy has just never been more popular in Maine. They sure don't sound very convincing.
I know Susan Collins. I've worked with her, and I understand and respect why the voters of Maine have chosen someone who is an outspoken, forceful progressive, someone who is a combat veteran and brings a new direction for the state of Maine if he were to be elected. But I've had real concerns about his tattoo and his story about what he thought or didn't think about this Nazi-affiliated tattoo and some of the allegations about his personal conduct. At the end of the day, I think the voters of Maine made it pretty clear that they wanted national Democrats to stay out of their primary and make up their own minds. They pushed back on Janet Mills, I think, because Democrats in Maine perceived her as having been supported by the National Democratic Party. So I think I should stay out of Maine politics and focus on my own state and my own region. I know Susan Collins. I've worked with her.
Classic deflection. I'm going to stay out of Maine politics. Sure. I have nothing to say about the guy with the Nazi tattoo. I'm just going to stay focused here in Delaware. That's the good moderate Senator Chris Coons, who, again, Susan Collins and a guy like Chris Coons, they're thick as thieves. I'm no fan of Collins, but Chris Coons has probably had great relationships for many years with Susan Collins. But again, Chris Coons is also the same guy who walked the plank for that stupid old man we were pretending was president, that shell of a human being, that husk called Joe Biden. Chris Coons was running around the country telling us that he was fine and never better and shipshape and sterling and cognitively sharp as a tack. So Coons is one of those guys who's uniquely disingenuous, playing the moderate. I have some concerns, but I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to stay in whatever. The Democrats are telling us who they are. From the Nazi tattoo to impeachment. They're promising they get control again. If they get the House, that's exactly where they want to go first. They want to go impeachment. Here's Jamie Raskin promising this is the business of the country if they get control. They elect their Nazi in Maine. They're going to blow up the filibuster. They take control of the House. They're going to impeach Donald Trump. That's all they want to do. That's all they want to achieve. Here's Raskin admitting as much.
Is impeachment on the table for you?
Again, everything's on the table. Nothing is off the table. We have a number of different mechanisms for checking the corruption and lawlessness that have overtaken our country. Nobody on our side is afraid of impeachment. It is not a taboo, but we also know it's not a panacea, and it is a fetish for nobody. It is one more tool in the toolkit, and we will use it if we need to use it.
Is impeachment.
Right. I don't know about you, and I know John Cornyn's in the New York Times, the sore loser that Cornyn is being there in Texas. He's saying, Trump's going to have a miserable last 2 years. John Cornyn is out there already basically cheering on the Democrats, no surprise, and telling us that Donald Trump is going to have a Democrat Congress and, he's going to have hell to pay for the next 2 years. Well, that's up to you. That's largely going to be up to the American voter whether the Democrats are handed the keys again. And I'm not terribly convinced. I know there are a lot of people suggesting now that even the Senate is going to fall to Democrats. Look, a lot can happen between now and November, but I'm still dubious of that claim. Here again, what are the Democrats' priorities? Let's listen to a couple of them. We haven't heard from the good representative of Massachusetts, Ayanna Pressley, in a while. The talk of reparations is back. That's another one. Anybody in the mood for this? This is another thing. Along with blowing up the filibuster in the Senate, packing the Supreme Court, making Puerto Rico and D.C. states. How about reparations talk, impeachment? Yeah, it's all back. Should they win this fall?
But we are here. And so we must work towards repair. This means reparative justice. like advancing H.R. 40 to develop reparations proposals. And as the lead House sponsor, I commit to advancing this bill alongside my movement siblings in the broader work for repair, truth, and healing. But let me be clear. This is not a movement or an appeal for benevolence or charity. This is a movement to demand redress, to right wrongs, to compensate for the harm and loss that we have experienced.
What is that cadence? What is that performative accent? Why do they speak like that? What is that? Human beings don't speak that way. Anyway, that's what Ayanna Pressley promises. So does Summer Lee, another Democrat, who says not only do they want reparations, but Black Americans should just stop participating unless they get it. Huh? You explain that to me? Black Americans should just stop participating in democracy altogether if they don't get reparations?
Psychological warfare with us. They are hell-bent on beating us down to our face and then telling us that, we're the ones who are crazy. And we got to fight back against this. So you know what? I have just not engaged in that topic of them trying to give like insurrectionists some dollars, because we got to control the things that we can control. And they want Black folks to feel like they're poking, like that they're knocking the wind out of us, right? That's what they need us to feel that way. Because if we feel empowered, if we feel like we have even a tiny bit of momentum, then they know that we have enough power to do damage, positive damage, good trouble damage, or whatever.
Good trouble. That's it.
Good trouble. But yeah, it's absurd. And that's what they do, because again, they're trying to disenfranchise you. Because if you believe that you're never going to get reparations from this system, then you tap out. And you don't just tap out of the conversation, you tap out of the system. You don't want to vote anymore. You don't participate anymore. And they know that that's how they don't just control Congress. That's how they can get your school boards, your board of supervisors. They want us that far out of the system. So right now, we fight for reparations because it's owed us. It is owed us. So we're not going to back down on that one way or another. I'm not shocked that my colleagues are not on it, that Democratic colleagues aren't on it. Again, there is a level of comfort in this building that sustains people. And I know that the people who don't want reparations back a lot of my colleagues, Democrat and otherwise. So no, I'm not shocked, but it is why we have to keep people on the outside encouraged. So it's not that we have to cancel out the news when they're doing shit like that. We can't cancel out the news. Like, we got to live in reality, but we have to counterbalance that with our plan, our organizing plan, with how we're going to build this coalition, who we're working with to move the needle on this. And I think that our time is really well spent there.
I have never heard such gibberish in all my life. If Black Americans are disenfranchised or feel they don't have a voice, it's because people like that woman claim to represent them. And what is she promising? What good is she promising to deliver? What organizational principles is she promising to improve? Is she promising to prove? Nothing. She's offering nothing. She says, I don't know, a check. That's effectively all she aspires for Black Americans, is a check. Not to better their lives, not to improve their standard of living, not to make housing more affordable, not to make anything more affordable, not to make life better. She just wants a check cut if your skin is a certain hue. It's pretty insulting. And of course, most know it. So do Black Americans. That's why a record number of them voted for President Trump. And frankly, they're falling off the Democrat bandwagon because they know after all these decades of promises, empty promises like things like reparations, they've done nothing to improve or make the lives of Black Americans at all better. And by the way, they see the likes of people like Ilhan Omar, one of the worst, not even American. And now probably overseeing, and maybe I'll just say this is my editorial comment, not that I have this on any kind of fact, but you do get the sense, don't you, that it wouldn't surprise you if she's hip deep in this fraud scandal, the Somali Medicare fraud scandal. She's become an awfully wealthy person with absolutely no justification for becoming wealthy, no job, no no position, no credibility to suggest she would become wealthy in any other way since she's been in Congress, and yet she has become very wealthy. President Trump addressing Ilhan Omar yesterday in the Oval Office. Give me number 271 here, Aaron.
You have the woman who married her brother. She came in and married her brother. Isn't that wonderful? And then she talks about the Constitution of the United States. She comes from Somalia. They don't have constitutions in Somalia. They don't have police. They don't have it. All they have is people that run around shooting each other. And then she comes and tells us how to run our country. I don't like it. These people don't like it. I can tell you. I think I can speak for you. Yeah. She comes in, Ilhan Omar. She comes in. She tells us how to run the United States of America. And she comes from a place without anything, probably among the worst countries in the world. And she says, the Constitution of the United States protects me. She shouldn't be protected. She honestly, she should be thrown out of the country. She's corrupt. And most of the people that came in are corrupt, and the whole voting system is corrupt in Minnesota. I won Minnesota 3 times, easily. I won almost every county, but they didn't give it to me. It's a corrupt system, very corrupt state. The governor is terrible. The attorney general is terrible. They're all very corrupt people. Yeah.
Corrupt indeed. And more of the same if Democrats are successful this fall. Speaking of the Democrats, as we approach the nation's 250th birthday, you know, Gallup has already released the numbers that say only 1 in 5 Democrats even say out loud that they're proud to be an American. Well, now officials from Connecticut, Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts, North Carolina, and Oregon aren't going to officially send delegations to the 16-day event on the National Mall. This from Just the News. Musical acts are not the only ones shying away from President Trump's event-filled celebration of America's 250th birthday. Officials from Connecticut, Illinois, Maine, Massachusetts, North Carolina, and Oregon aren't officially sending delegations to the 16-day event. With 2 weeks left before the event opens June 25th, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Washington have also not committed to sending delegates. Freedom 250, an event the Trump administration began organizing last year, will feature a fair, an ultimate fighting championship match, and an IndyCar race. Rachel Reisner, spokesperson for Freedom 250, said that all 50 states and U.S. territories will be represented in some way at the event, whether that be the governor's office, a tourism board, or company based in the state. So Democrats refusing to participate in the celebration of the nation's 250th birthday because of who the president is. Very patriotic. Meanwhile, a massive 8647 message has been carved into the grounds of Washington, D.C.'s National Mall, drawing attention of federal authorities and reviving controversy surrounding the anti-Trump slogan that's already landed former Federal Bureau of Investigation Director James Comey in legal trouble. Authorities responding yesterday after a giant 8647 marking was discovered etched into the grass near the World War II memorial. Aaron, have you seen this? I know you live not terribly far from this. Has this made news there locally? I haven't actually seen the video. You seen anything about this?
Actually, I was just hearing it for the first time from you.
Well, thank you
Breaking
very
news.
much. Look at that. Breaking news here. A local photojournalist named Andrew Leiden observed the message from an aerial perspective. I don't know. Maybe you can find it out there on X or something, Aaron, if you see the video. But there's apparently an aerial photo from a guy named Andrew Leiden, Leyden, where the numbers are clearly visible from above. The phrase 8647 has become a politically charged anti-Trump slogan. 86, commonly understood as slang for getting rid of, removing, or killing an item from the menu, originally used by industry staff. Meanwhile, 47, of course, refers to Donald Trump. We all understand that. The slogan gaining national attention when James Comey spelled it in seashells on the beach.
I have the Fox News segment here.
Oh, we have this Fox News. Okay, here's a little bit of Fox News covering it, just so you can see what we're talking about here. I haven't seen it myself, so here we go.
Police say that this large 8647 was discovered around 11:30 yesterday afternoon on the west side of the Washington Monument. The anti-Trump sequence has emerged just as the National Mall is preparing for an influx of visitors for Sunday's UFC match and the president's
That's
birthday.
weird. Aaron, can you rewind that a little bit? That's go back to that overhead shot. I just want to see the picture of it because looking at it there, I don't really I'm not sure how that was even achieved, and it's the 7's not very clear. But here's the other thing, like, however they did that, how do you think that was done? Somebody pouring something? I'm looking at the picture of it right now. How do you think that
It's
was
probably the aliens that do crop circles.
But I don't understand. Like,
I don't know.
did you pour some kind of weed killer? And by the way, who was allowed to do that for how long? You don't do that quickly, I wouldn't guess. Was that done overnight? Like, I have many, many questions about this. Of course, they'll cede over it quickly. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure James Comey will say it's nothing. Nevertheless, so that's the Democrats in a nutshell. That's the kind of stuff you have to look forward to in November should they take power again.